Music is everywhere. You hear people singing in the streets or halls, you hear it on the radio, and most schools offer 3 classes dedicated to music: band, orchestra, and choir.
We all know it has an impact in today's life. When you hear, "Oh my God, did you hear the new Drake song?" They sometimes can inspire people, like "Fight Song" by Rachel Platten, and some songs can create controversy, like "Famous" by Kanye West. This song shows how obsessed the world or media is with certain famous people.
Just like today, music was present in the Civil War, maybe not in the same style as today, but they had their own impacts.
For example, in the Civil War era, they used music for just about everything. Their whole day consisted of music. In the mornings, they would wake up to revival, which was a trumpet or bugle call, and they would end the day with taps, which is also a bugle call that can be played at flag ceremonies and military funerals.
Additionally, they had signals in the war that were based off of music, specifically for attacks and retreats. Each soldier became so familiar with their own musician and his bugle calls that they could often distinguish his calls from that of another regiment. Like the cavalry, artillery units also used bugles in camp and on the battlefield. One could tell who was camped where by the sounds of drums or bugles being played.
Musicians would be on the battlefield just playing music while bullets were passing their heads. You know how people today go, musicians have it easy and they put little to no effort in playing. Well, musicians in the Civil War had to have a lot of determination because they could have easily been shot or killed while playing music in the battlefields.
The North and South had different types of music. Each side's music basically were influenced by their beliefs.
North music was mainly about the patriot cause and building the Union back together. They mentioned famous leaders and important people, and some were about the battles. In some of their songs, they talked about the South, mainly criticizing them and calling them foolish. In addition, they also had their own anthem called Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Southern music was about what they believed in slaves and being independent. The whites had their music and the colored had their music too, which they sang while working in the fields. They also criticized the North in their songs. Their anthem was called Dixie, or I Wish I Was in Dixie. It wasn't actually an anthem, but they considered it their anthem. Dixie is what they called their home or the southern states. It was a favorite song of Abraham Lincoln, and he had it played at Lee's surrender at Appomattox Courthouse.
Music in this time period also existed off the battlefield, whether it was back at the camps or at home. On the battlefield, in addition to the signals that the armies had, songs were played. Sometimes they played the whole songs at once. It was once said that the power of music was the equivalent to 1,000 men. And General Lee himself said, "I don't think we could have an army without music."
At camps where the soldiers stayed, they used music as motivation or to just remember their families back at home. One weird thing that music did to people is it helped each side, Union and Confederates, put aside their differences to play music together, sometimes even having music battles on who could outplay the other. At home, they used music to recruit soldiers or to remember the fathers, brothers, or sons who were fighting in the war. This style of music has influenced style today. Some of the music industry's top hits or artists were inspired by war music, such as Elvis Presley. The drum lines and rhythms they use for war marches are sometimes the foundation of songs today, such as Beyoncé's Run the World, Girls.
Just like we have popular songs today, there were popular songs back then as well.
Known as the most dangerous song of the Civil War is Bonnie Blue Flag. The blue flag with the single white star in the middle was a symbol of secession and an unofficial flag of the Confederacy. The song came out when the sheet music industry was booming during the 19th century. With these conditions, a song popularized in New Orleans came to be known as a controversial anthem of the Confederacy. In May 1862, Union forces entered New Orleans, and from that point to December, General Benjamin Butler from the Union ruled over the city. He was known for having severe social policies, one of which ordered that owning or singing one of the most popular songs of the period became an act of treason. Arrest records from New Orleans revealed that many men and women were regularly arrested for singing Bonnie Blue Flag. After the South collapsed in the war, the song was revived as a symbol of lost cause mentality in the midst of 50-year commemorations of the war. During the civil rights era, it once again became a song of protest, but for integration rights in public places. So as you can see, the message of the song can be used as protest specific for any trouble during a certain period of time.
The words to another popular song, John Brown's Body, went through many variations. In the original version, the song isn't about anti-slavery John Brown you'd think it would be about. Instead, he was a soldier in the Union Army in a Massachusetts regiment who had the name John Brown. The song became a way for his fellow soldiers to tease him. As the song passed on to other regiments, people still had no clue they were singing about the soldier John Brown. Different groups added different verses to the song to fit their experiences. What's interesting is the image of John Brown changed over time too. People add different interesting characteristics to the story, just like soldiers would add lyrics to the song. Slowly it became one of the Union's favorite marching tunes. It started as humorous folk humor, but most who sung it assumed that John Brown's body lies moldering in the grave was a strangely worded tribute to the underestimated pipsqueak of a soldier, not the commemoration of the fierce and bearded John Brown.
Now, some songs from this century that are influenced in culture today are either about army or independence. So first of all, there's a very popular song called Firework by Katy Perry, which most of you have heard, maybe even on the 4th of July. Though it is not directly related to the war, it's related to it in terms of motivation techniques. The message explains the importance of revealing your true self to the world and not keeping it a secret. It's kind of a song of celebration or encouragement relating to a song they sung in the Civil War to motivate the soldiers to continue fighting.
Okay, so now for our second song, which shout out to Mr. Summer for depriving me of my Beyonce. Here's a song by Beyonce called Run the World, Girls. This song's beat is a drum beat that was used in the Civil War. This is also a form of motivation or inspiration for women to know they shouldn't be disrespected by men, as many often are. However, some women find this song to be disgusting. The repetition of girls and how it's used in parentheses in the title is somewhat offensive to them. Beyonce's message is clear in the song, but it's almost too vague. Supposedly, this famous musician is firing up girls to fight for themselves, while soldiers were taught to fight for their country.
We will now end with the Song of Taps, just like how the soldiers ended their day. They sang this at night during the time of war, however it wasn't named Taps until after the war. It was originally called Extinguish the Lights. This song told soldiers to put out the lights and to go to sleep. It was even performed as a bugle solo that only consisted of 24 notes. The story of Taps originates from when the Union Army Captain Robert Ellicombe heard the moans of a soldier in the night. He risked his own life and brought the man back for medical attention without knowing if he was a Union or Confederate soldier. He saw he was actually a Confederate soldier, and when he saw his face, he realized it was his own son. The boy had been studying music in the South when the war broke out. Without telling his father, he had enlisted in the Confederate Army. Heartbroken the next morning, he asked permission for a full military burial. He wanted a group of Army band members to play at his funeral, but the request was denied since the soldier was a Confederate. However, out of respect, they did say they could give him one musician. The captain chose a bugler. He asked the bugler to play a series of notes he had found on a piece of paper in the pocket of the deceased young soldier. The once haunting melody that we now know as taps, played at military funerals and flag ceremonies, was created.